CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
That's enough. I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
Of course.
Okay, just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people.
CNN is taking action after the White House ban our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta.
CNN's White House correspondent Jim Acosta opened up about having his press credentials revoked, and the lawsuit he and CNN filed against the White House. The wrongful revocation of these credentials violates CNN and Acosta's First Amendment rights of freedom of the press, and their Fifth Amendment rights to due process, CNN said in a statement announcing the lawsuit. Acosta said in a statement that I have always endeavored to conduct myself as a diligent but respectful reporter who asks probing but fair questions. The revocation of my White House press credential not only destroys my ability to perform my current job, it will follow me for the rest of my career. My reputation and my future career prospects have all been significantly harmed if not completely devastated. This has frightened both me and my family, and required us to take additional security measures in our daily lives. He continued, adding that he and his family have been receiving death threats regularly. Acosta's press credentials were revoked after a spat with Trump during his post-midterm election press conference. The theatrics began when Acosta asked the president about his rhetoric on the migrant caravan. Trump shut him down and asked him to sit down. Acosta refused and continued asking questions. The president retaliated by verbally attacking both Acosta and CNN. As this was going on, a White House intern approached Acosta and tried to take the microphone from him, but he refused. Following the debacle, CNN condemned the president's treatment of Acosta. Later that night, Sanders announced that his press credentials had been revoked for his behavior during the briefing. After the announcement of the lawsuit, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders responded saying this is just more grandstanding from CNN, and we will vigorously defend against this lawsuit. Mr. Acosta is no more or less special than any other media outlet or reporter with respect to the First Amendment. The White House cannot run an orderly and fair press conference when a reporter acts this way, which is neither appropriate nor professional. The First Amendment is not served when a single reporter, of more than 150 present, attempts to monopolize the floor. If there is no check on this type of behavior, it impedes the ability of the president, the White House staff, and members of the media to conduct business. Acosta's White House press pass is suspended until further notice. The White House Correspondents Association came out with a statement supporting Acosta filing the announcement of the lawsuit.
How long are you going to leave Jim Acosta in the penalty box?
I think Jim Acosta is a very unprofessional man. I think he does this with everybody. He gets paid to do that. You know, he gets paid to burst in. He's a very unprofessional guy. Whether it was me or Ronald Reagan or anybody else, he would have done the same thing. Look, I don't think he's a smart person, but he's got a loud voice. And here, wait, David, do you mind if I answer the question? And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't made that decision, but it could be others also. When you're in the White House, this is a very sacred place to me. This is a very special place. You have to treat the White House with respect. You have to treat the presidency with respect. If you've ever seen him dealing with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it's a disgrace. And he does it for, the reason. The same thing with April Ryan. I watch her get up. I mean, you talk about somebody that's a loser. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She gets publicity, and then she gets a pay raise, or she gets a contract with, I think, CNN. But she's very nasty, and she shouldn't be. She shouldn't be. You've got to treat the White House and the office of the presidency with respect.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I
was
going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President,
me. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question.
let's go.
After that fiery exchange last week, CNN is now suing President Trump and his administration, demanding that they reinstate Jim Acosta's White House press pass. The lawsuit alleges that Acosta and the network's constitutional rights are being violated by the ban. But the White House is fighting back by dismissing the legal move as, quote, more grandstanding from CNN, and vows to fight it. You know what I learned from the lawsuit, Greg? That Jim Acosta's first name is Abilio.
Oh, that's nice.
I had no idea.
That is nice.
He's going by his middle name, Jim.
And I'm glad that you didn't butcher it. Because apparently you butchered every name in the last block. Look, they might have Camila Gillibrand. Here's the issue with Acosta. They might have a point, even though he still has a daily pass he can apply for every day, and CNN has 50 passes. But he may have a point. The problem is you don't care if they have a point because he's so unlikable. He's the student in class that disrupts the class so nobody else can learn. And Trump is basically the teacher that just grounded him or said you got to eat, you got to bash the erasers during recess. And you got to go, well, maybe you want to be sympathetic to Acosta, but you can't because all he does is make it about himself. Every time he asks a question to Trump, will you agree with me that you're a racist? And it's just like, yeah, so they might have a point, but the point is we don't care because we don't like him.
Should Trump just give him the hairy eyeball like he gave the Moroccan king?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just stare him down and give him the silent treatment?
I think a wonderful thing to do would be to have the two of them sit at a desk and really go after each other. I think it would be incredibly compelling, and it could be an airing of the grievances that everyone would appreciate. And I think the president, I actually think they both get so much from these exchanges.
Yeah.
I think those who lose out, first of all, the American people, because when he is grandstanding, no one is holding the administration accountable. And also all of the other journalists in the room get very annoyed because they do research, they have questions, they have follow-up questions, they spend a lot of time crafting questions so they can ask 6 things within a question. And then when Acosta sucks all the oxygen out of the room, they want to take him and have a secret prison blanket party, I think.
Yeah, we're hearing no one likes him over at CNN as well. Juan, so Jim Acosta has yelled things during the White House Easter egg roll. He's yelled things during historic signing statements with Kim Jong-un. He's called the president of the United States on CNN racist, and he's, refusing to pass the microphone to this White House intern. At what point do you say, listen, shape up? I mean, how long do they have to put up with this? The White House would never put up with any behavior like that if it was Barack Obama in the Oval.
Have you ever heard of Sam Donaldson talk about a White House correspondent that grandstands regularly?
Did he call President Reagan racist?
No,
Did
but
he yell things during the White House Easter egg roll?
I think half the American people think President Trump is racist, so I don't know that that's so out of the blue.
But is that the job of a hard news White House correspondent?
No, he's asking questions, and
yeah,
I must
aren't
say,
you a racist? That's the question.
Believe me, there were reporters asking that last week, and the president said, you're stupid, you're dumb, that's a racist question. But let's leave that alone because it gets so deep so quickly. I think it's interesting that Bob Woodward said that this suit is a mistake, that in fact what you see is CNN playing into Trump's hand. It just feeds the anger. They should instead cover him aggressively in terms of his action statements and policies. I will say that I think CNN's suit is on solid ground. You can't say because the guy's rude or because the guy asks tough questions that he can't be a correspondent at the White House.
But he can still apply for the pass every day.
Can anybody be a correspondent? Right? If Don Lemon wanted to sit in the front row at the White House, could he get it? You're supposed to give it to just anybody?
I mean, I think the best thing they could do with Acosta is to ignore him. I mean, you revoke his access. He's dying to have it revoked, though, because then he gets to go around and tweet, my access has been denied, and he gets to become the story. I would stand up there and ignore him. It would drive him completely insane. Every person you know who's dying for attention, and his behavior is abysmal. I know it's hard to ignore, and I know you want to throw him out of the room because he detracts from the ability of other reporters to ask their questions, and he's ostentatious and he's annoying. I get it, but the second you revoke it and allow him to make himself the story, it's a gift to him. So I wouldn't have done this. I think the lawsuit may hold up, but you're right, though. Somebody has to be able to get his behavior in line. This guy can't just walk in there every day and act like he's in a political. It's like he's a contributor.
Are you suggesting a shock collar?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting.
I don't think it worked for them, though, when they banned another CNN correspondent because they didn't like It doesn't.
See,
This
that's
is bad.
different, though.
This is like the video where they set out a doctored video as an official White House document. That's propaganda. That makes people think that what's going on in the White House is really an autocrat.
So if I worked for, let's say, Fox News, and I went into the White House, and every day during the press briefing, I played mouth trumpet, and it was really, really annoying for everyone in the room. Does the White House have a moral obligation to keep me in the room, although I'm annoying everyone in there going...
No, they have no obligation to keep you, but they don't have the right to throw you out. Remember, there have been people in fistfights. This is about protecting the president and his family. That's about it.
Okay.
Other than that,
so
the rest is just
in
editorial.
Juan's opinion, you can go to the White House and you can behave like a total idiot, and they're constitutionally not allowed to touch you. All right? Next Democrat president, I'm applying for a hard pass. I'm going to misbehave and see how long.
By the way, he could still get a daily pass.
That's right.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America.